When the doorbell rang that first Tuesday in March 2021, I was still in my robe, drinking coffee that had gone cold an hour earlier because I'd been up since 5, waiting for the sound of tires on my driveway, waiting for the moment I would meet my first grandchild in person instead of through Brittany's perfectly filtered Instagram grid. I opened the door and there was Ethan, my only child, 32 years old and already balding at the temples the way his father had, holding a tiny pink bundle against his chest like he was scared she'd break. Brittany stood behind him in leggings that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, hair in that influencer messy bun that somehow looked expensive, eyes bright with the kind of exhaustion that still photographs well. "Mom," she said before I could even say hello, "you are literally saving our lives right now." She kissed the air beside my cheek, already backing toward their new white Jeep Cherokee with the sponsored roof rack. "Brand meeting at 10, 2 reels before the light dies. We'll be back by 6. Promise." Ethan handed me Chloe like he was passing off a football, gave me a quick side hug, and jogged after his wife. The Jeep reversed out of my driveway so fast the tires chirped. I stood on the porch in my 20-year-old Cleveland Browns sweatshirt, holding a 6-week-old baby who smelled like lavender lotion and sour milk, and I didn't know yet that I had just opened the door to 4 entire years of my life disappearing one sunrise at a time. She was so small, smaller than Ethan had been, and he was a preemie. Her little fist curled around my pinky and squeezed, like she already knew who would never let her fall. I carried her inside, shut the door with my foot, and that was it. That was the exact second I stopped being Linda Kowalski, retired medical coder, who still had plans to travel to Ireland before 70, and became Gigi on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no holidays, no sick days, no pay. The first month was magic. I told myself that over and over while I walked the floor at 3 a.m. with a screaming colicky baby because Brittany had a sleep training content series scheduled and couldn't be interrupted. "Magic," I whispered, while I warmed bottles at 2:17 a.m. because the night nanny they'd bragged about hiring never materialized. "Magic," I repeated when my own doctor called to reschedule my colonoscopy for the 4th time because Chloe had an ear infection and somebody had to take her. I sang her every lullaby Elle knew, rocked her in the same glider I'd rocked Ethan in 32 years earlier, watched her eyes go from cloudy newborn blue to the exact shade of Lake Erie in July, and I told myself this was temporary. This was what grandmothers did. This was love. By the time she was 4 months old, the schedule only existed in my head. Monday through Friday, they dropped her off at 5:45 a.m., sometimes still asleep, sometimes already dressed in whatever color palette Brittany needed for that day's Instagram grid. Promised pickup time was 6. Actual pickup time varied between 6:15 p.m. and 1:47 a.m., depending on golden hour, ring light temperature, and whether Brittany needed one more oat milk latte selfie with the exact right foam heart. I stopped asking, I stopped expecting. Elle just left the porch light on and kept the coffee hot, and learned to sleep in 2-hour chunks like I was 25 again and in the Army instead of 63 and retired. I quit my part-time medical coding job in June because somebody had to be with the baby full-time, and apparently 2 able-bodied adults who posted 12 times a day about living their best life couldn't possibly pause long enough to raise the child they'd made. My retirement plan had been to quit at 65 and finally take that trip to Ireland with my sister Carol Instead, I quit at 63, cashed the small 401k penalty-free because of hardship, and used it to buy the organic mango puree Brittany insisted on, the Montessori wooden stacking cups that cost $60 for 3 pieces of sanded beechwood, the $180 sage green sleep sacks, because white was too harsh for the feed. I kept every receipt, not because Elle thought I'd ever send them a bill, just because I'm a medical coder and we document everything. The receipts lived in a shoebox on the top shelf of the closet, growing thicker every month like some kind of tumor made of paper. Chloe learned to sit up on my living room rug. She said her first word in my kitchen, Gigi, while reaching for the banana I was peeling. She took her first steps between my couch and the coffee table while Brittany filmed a get ready with me in the other room and didn't even look up when I called out that her daughter was walking. I have the video on my phone. You can hear me crying in the background while Chloe toddles straight into my arms, laughing like this is the best game in the world. When she turned 1, they threw the party that everybody in Northeast Ohio still talks about. 40 adults, 1 child, balloon arches in 12 shades of blush and cream, a grazing table that cost more than my first car, a gelato cart flown in from Columbus, a 3-tier smash cake taller than the birthday girl herself. The photographer charged $4,200 just to show up. Total bill came to $11,400. I wrote the check in the kitchen while Brittany live-streamed the whole thing, zooming in on my face when I handed it over so her followers could see the grateful tears. Ethan hugged me and whispered, "Mom, you're literally making our dreams come true." I smiled until my cheeks cracked and went home to eat a peanut butter sandwich standing over the sink because I couldn't afford groceries after that check cleared. 18 months later, Brittany announced they were one and done. Ethan scheduled the vasectomy consultation and then ghosted the urologist because the recovery timing would tank Q4 content. 3 months after that, Brittany was pregnant again and sat me down at my own kitchen table with that bright influencer smile that never reached her eyes. "Linda, we need to talk about childcare moving forward," she said, rubbing her stomach like she was already filming a reveal video. 2 Under 2 is a whole different beast, and the brand is finally hitting consistent 6 figures monthly. We've decided to bring in someone younger for the aesthetic. Sophia is 24, Guatemalan, absolutely stunning cheekbones. She matches the feed perfectly. I waited for the joke. There wasn't one. They had already hired her. They had already bought her scrubs in oat milk and sage. They had already filmed the tearful letting Grandma enjoy her golden years video without asking my permission. It went live at 8 p.m. on a Thursday and had 2 million views before I woke up Friday morning. Watched it at 2:14 a.m., sitting on the bathroom floor, so I wouldn't wake Chloe, who was asleep in the crib. I still kept made up, just in case. Brittany cried prettily about boundaries and self-care and how hard it was to release the mental load. Ethan talked about how much they loved me but needed to protect their family unit. The comments were brutal. Finally, some healthy boundaries. Grandma needs to let go. Love that they're prioritizing the baby's aesthetic. Someone posted a crying, laughing emoji under a comment that said, "Hope Gigi enjoys her cats and wine now." Elle threw up in the toilet and didn't flush for a long time because the sound felt too violent. 2 weeks later, the email from Chloe's new Montessori preschool landed in my inbox, forwarded by Brittany with a single line. Linda, we know you've always wanted the absolute best for Chloe's future. So tuition, $28,800 plus mandatory $5,000 building fund. Total, $33,800 due. September 1st. That was every penny of my savings, plus half my 401k if I cashed it early and ate the penalties and taxes. I stared at those numbers until the screen went black from inactivity. Then I drove to their house without calling. Sophia opened the door, holding Chloe on her hip, wearing the sage green scrubs. My granddaughter saw me and reached both arms out, screaming Gigi. Gigi, the way she had every single morning for the last 2 years. Sophia looked terrified, like Brittany had given her a script titled, "What to Do If the Crazy Grandma Shows Up?" Brittany appeared in cropped leggings and a sports bra. Ring light already glowing behind her like a halo made of LED bulbs. Linda, bad time. We're about to film a day in the life with the new nanny. Took the preschool invoice out of my purse. I had written one word across the top in red Sharpie. No. Then I took Chloe out of Sophia's arms, walked past Brittany while she shrieked something about kidnapping, and calling the police, buckled my granddaughter into the car seat that still lived permanently in my back seat and drove away. They called the police that same night. 2 officers showed up at 9:17 p.m. for a wellness check. Chloe was already asleep in the crib with the worn-out mobile of felt stars I'd sewn myself when Ethan was born. I let them in, made coffee, showed them the 847 text messages where Brittany begged me to take Chloe for just 1 more week. The Venmo history of every organic smoothie and Montessori toy Elle ever bought. The ring light receipts in my name because their business account couldn't handle the sales tax. The unedited footage I'd somehow gotten from the photographer of the Letting Grandma Retire video where Brittany can be heard off camera saying, "Cry harder, we need the engagement for the giveaway." The younger officer looked almost sorry when he said, "Ma'am, legally she's safe with you tonight, but you should probably get a lawyer." I closed the door after them and stood in my dark hallway holding the baby monitor and realized the life I had been living for 4 years had just ended with the click of a deadbolt. That was the night I stopped being Gigi on call and started being Linda again. The next morning, Ethan texted from a new number. "Mom, we need to talk. This is insane. Chloe needs routine." Elle answered with a single voice memo. "You're right, she does need routine. From now on, her routine is with the person who never once left her, waiting until midnight for 4 straight years. That person is me until you two figure out how to be parents." Then I blocked both their numbers and turned my phone off for the first time since 2015. For 3 days, my phone buzzed itself dead on the kitchen counter from unknown numbers, mutual friends Brittany had weaponized. Even my sister Carol, who meant well, but had swallowed the toxic grandma narrative whole. On the 4th day, Ethan showed up alone. He stood on my porch in the rain looking exactly like the little boy who used to cry when I dropped him off at preschool because he didn't want me to leave. "Mom, please, we made a mistake. Just give her back and we'll figure everything out." Elle opened the door just wide enough to hand him a printed invoice. 4 years of full-time childcare at the going Cleveland nanny rate of $18 an hour, 50 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, with no vacation, no sick days, no benefits, no overtime. Total $374,400. Underneath I had written, in the same red Sharpie payment plan available, interest accrues daily. He stared at the paper like it was written in another language. Water dripped off his hair onto the page and blurred the ink. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life, Ethan. You wanted a free nanny, you got one. Now you want your daughter back without paying the bill? That's not how any of this works. He started to cry. Real tears this time, not the pretty influencer kind Brittany could turn on and off for sponsorships. Mom, we don't have that kind of money. Then I suggest you start making $100 a week some different videos, I said, and closed the door. 2 weeks later, their lawyer sent a letter threatening grandparent visitation rights and accusing me of alienation. My lawyer, Donna Rizzo, a shark in 4-inch heels who specialized in narcissistic family cases and looked like she ate entitled children for breakfast, sent back a counterclaim for 4 years of unpaid wages, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and defamation based on the toxic grandma video that now had 8 million views and counting. Discovery was a thing of beauty. We subpoenaed their LLC tax returns, their YouTube analytics, every sponsored post where they bragged about living their best life while Gigi raised their child, the unedited hard drive from the photographer that showed Brittany telling Ethan to look more conflicted when they talked about letting me retire. We got the text messages where Brittany told her manager that the old lady will pay for preschool. She always does. We got the Venmo history showing Elle paid for the ring lights, the oat milk subscription box, the $1,200 stroller they returned after using it for content because the new one matched the nursery refresh. The judge, a woman who looked like she'd heard every excuse in the world and was fresh out of patience, took one look at the evidence and ordered temporary full physical custody to me until Ethan and Brittany completed court-mandated parenting classes, secured stable employment that didn't rely on ring light selfies, and paid the first $50,000 of the judgment into an escrow account for Chloe's future therapy, because the judge literally said that on the record. They never paid a cent. 6 months later, their channel was demonetized after Brittany had a very public meltdown on live about toxic grandmas who steal children for clout. Sponsors ran for the hills. The big house in the suburbs went into foreclosure. Sophia quit the week the paychecks bounced and took the sage green scrubs with her. Last I heard, Brittany was working the register at Lululemon and Ethan drives for Uber between auditioning for local car dealership commercials that never call back. Chloe calls me Mama now. She starts kindergarten next fall at the public school, 2 blocks from my house, where the teachers don't care what shade of beige the cubbies are. Some nights, she still asks about the pretty lady with the phone who used to take pictures of her. I tell her that lady is learning how to be a real mommy, and when she's ready, we'll see. I kept the crib. I turned the guest room into a big girl room, painted the exact shade of bubblegum pink. Chloe picked out herself at Home Depot while holding my hand so tight. Elle had little half-moon marks. From her nails, I go to bed when I want, eat what I want, and the only ring light in my house is the one over the bathroom mirror for putting on mascara before I take Chloe to the park. Sometimes on Sundays we go to the playground and I watch her run after the other kids with grass stains on her knees and dirt under her fingernails, and the kind of joy that can't be filtered. No one is filming, no one is performing. She is just a little girl being a little girl, and Elle am just a grandmother who finally learned that love doesn't invoice itself but self. Respect damn well should. My name is Linda Kowalski. I am 67 years old. I have full custody of the only person who ever truly needed me. And for the first time in 4 years, my house is quiet after 8 p.m. Not because I'm waiting for someone to remember I'll exist, but because everyone who matters is already home. And if anyone ever asks why I did it, why I finally said no after 4 years of yes, I tell them the truth. Because the day I handed back that preschool invoice with a single red word across it wasn't the day I stopped loving my son. It was the day I started loving myself again. And that, finally, was a bill I was more than happy to pay in full. If you liked my story, you can support me by making a donation so I can write more stories. Thank you in advance. And you, what would you do in this person's place? I would love to hear your opinion, so please share it with me in the comments. I'm always curious about what you all think, and also write me where you heard this story. For more life stories like this, like the video and subscribe to my channel. There are many other stories waiting for you. With heartfelt greetings, Elizabeth Queen.